While some people would prefer chocolates behind the doors of their advent calendars, the Liberal Democrats and the Scottish National Party would like an election on December the 9th. Hardly festive, but neither is what's behind the door on December the 12th, which is the date Boris Johnson has suggested for a national poll. And Labour, they're keeping all doors closed until no deal is off the table. Tomorrow Parliament will be asked to vote on the government bid, but under the Fixed Term Parliaments Act that requires a 2/3 majority. The Lib Dem SNP option, an amendment to the Act, would not allow a general election unless Brexit was delayed until at least January the 31st, and it would only require a simple majority to pass. They have now written to the EU to ask for that extension.
If the Prime Minister genuinely wants an election before Christmas, then he'll support this bill. If actually what he wants to do is pretend he wants an election before Christmas and then change the date so that we crash out without a deal, then he needs to come clean on that. And to Jeremy Corbyn, I would say, again, you said you wanted an election once no deal was off the table, so why not support this bill?
In public, the idea was being completely dismissed by the Tories.
The Lib Dem SNP bill is clearly a gimmick. Their bill moves the election date by 3 days, yes, takes the withdrawal agreement completely off the table. And if really they want to vote for an election, they can vote for the bill that we put forward.
Yet later in the day, there were hints from Number 10 that the government is open to all options, including ideas similar to those proposed by other opposition parties. There are reports of internal fights within Labour over whether to back a general election, but the message remained today that there would be no support until the Prime Minister removes no deal.
I think it's a bit of a stunt by the Lib Dems and the SNP. The reality is we've got to have no deal completely off the table and that whole threat removed before anything else, because of the danger to our economy, to jobs, to trade, to medicine supplies. And I think Johnson is playing with fire here by messing around and still saying he's thinking about this.
Get ready for Brexit on the 31st of October.
The Prime Minister's do-or-die threat to Brexit by October the 31st with a deal or no deal is no more, despite the ad still being played. EU ambassadors have already agreed an extension. They are waiting until this week, however, and could make their minds up as soon as tomorrow to set a date.
Well, joining me now from his Kingston constituency is the Liberal Democrat Deputy Leader, Ed Davey. Why have you given up on being able to get a second referendum through the House of Commons?
Well, we would prefer a people's vote, but we've tabled 17 amendments over this whole period, and it's not gone through. Unfortunately, Labour has either sat on their hands, Jeremy Corbyn's not got his people to vote for it, or if he has, he's not got enough Labour people to vote for it. And last week, Liberal Democrats tabled an amendment to the Queen's speech, and Jeremy Corbyn wasn't going to back it, and therefore didn't even get selected for a vote. So we've been trying week in, week out for a people's vote. It's increasingly clear that's not going to happen, and therefore we need to get this back to the British people, but in a way that's not on the Prime Minister's terms, because he wants his Brexit deal done and dusted before the general election.
Which would take no deal off the table.
Wrong. Yes, well, our bill would take no deal off the table.
No, but his deal would as well, wouldn't it? I mean, that's what's confusing about this. You're being offered by the government a chance to take no deal off the table by passing a deal and entering the transition period and then having an election, and you're turning it down in favour of an election in which no deal is very much a threat.
No, let me take you through it. First of all, our bill would make the election conditional on the EU extension to the 31st of January, so no deals off the table. But moreover, because we want to stop Brexit, Liberal Democrats are very clear we're against Brexit, the largest Remain party in Britain. The SNP share our view on that. We want to have that election where Britain remains in the EU, and it can be up to the British people about whether a Brexit deal goes ahead or doesn't, by how they vote in that general election. So this is very different from Boris Johnson's proposal. I think Boris Johnson made his proposal because he wanted to distract attention away from his utter failure to get his Brexit deal through by the 31st of October. And our deal, our proposal with this bill, would be the most democratic way forward.
Yeah, but I mean, what you're saying to the British people, is the only way to stop Brexit now is to vote in a Liberal Democrat government. And with the best will in the world, there are no opinion polls saying that's remotely likely. So what this looks like, in fact, is that you've given up on stopping Brexit, and both you and the Scottish National Party have decided it's best to just get as many MPs in Parliament as possible and face another Boris Johnson government.
Well, first of all, I do think Liberal Democrats can do extremely well at the next election because we are the Remain party, and there's a huge number of people there who out in there in the country watching this programme and out there who want to stop Brexit. And so I think those people who are from a true Remain position could do extremely well and could potentially win. But even if the Liberal Democrats don't win by ourselves, there will be other Remain parties who might do well, whether it's the Labour Remainers or whether it's some Tory Remainers or some SNP candidates who will be standing on a Remain ticket. So when I think the Liberal Democrats can really come through to help stop Brexit, I think the British people in constituencies where there are other candidates who might be better placed will vote for those. So I think this is the democratic way to enable our country to say no to Boris Johnson, no to that right-wing agenda, and no to Brexit.
Yeah, but it only works if the EU says yes to January the 31st. I mean, the other aspect of this is, of course, that the government isn't going to want to be outmanoeuvred on this and have to vote for a Liberal Democrat SNP motion. It might well just put back a compromise to you, which is its original plan of December the 12th, but without passing the withdrawal agreement, which is basically what you're saying, but with 3 days difference in it. Is that where we're going to end up?
Well, I don't know. I think there's going to be a big debate when we get back to Westminster tomorrow. But what Joe Swinson and the Liberal Democrats have done with this bill proposal is show true leadership. We've had nothing of any leadership from Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party. We're calling their bluff with this bill because our bill takes no deal off the table because an election would be conditional on the EU granting that.
Did you ask them to join you, just out of interest?
And therefore,
or did you just cook this up behind their back? Did you ask the Labour Party to join you on this bill, or did you do this behind their back?
We contacted them, we showed them the bill. So they had every chance to come on board. We spoke to the SNP, they came on board, and we wrote to the EU to show to the EU that there were parties in the opposition who were prepared for a general election. And that was a very important message of what we've done because there was a real fear that the EU might just grant a short extension to enable Boris Johnson to get his deal through. And for those of us who want to stop Brexit and then put it to the people, that would have been a very bad place to be. So this is saying to the EU, there are people who will go to the people and who will want to stop Brexit. That's the Liberal Democrats.
Ed Davey, thank you very much.